In the last video, we created a basic graphical user interface using the GUI builder called Designer. In this video, we're going to start writing the code to run that program and interact with the graphical elements. So we launch PyCharm and click on Open. We select the folder that we created where we put the UI file in it. So you can see mainwin.ui. So we select the folder that file is in and click OK. If we go up to that folder, we can see that inside we have the mainwin.ui. The mainwin.ui file isn't Python code. It's called XML. XML is a representation of the graphical user interface that was generated by Designer. So what we want to do is convert that to Python code so that we can use it in our program. So we'll go down to the bottom and click on Terminal, and that will open up the folder that we're currently in with this project. We're going to use a program called PyUIC5 to convert that XML into Python code. So we write PyUIC5, the name of the file that we want to convert, then we do a -o to say that what follows is the output file. And the way I'm going to name this is I'm going to put a capital U lowercase I underscore at the start of any file that I generate into Python code from the UI XML representation. I'll call that main window. So this will generate the Python code that would create that graphical interface we designed. So I'll press enter to run the conversion. I didn't get any output from it, so I can assume that that completed successfully. If I just close and open this folder, it should refresh, and you can see I have UI main window there. So let's click on that and have a look at its contents. And you can see there's Python code that's been generated and a warning at the top there that it has been generated, and if you make any changes to the UI file and regenerate this code, it will change. So you should never edit this directly, but rather change your interface through Designer and regenerate it. So we have our UI file that we edit with Designer, and we now have our Python representation of that. We need a third file that we do edit, and this is going to be the entry to our application. So if you right click on first app, or the name of the directory, and we say new Python file. So this will be the main window. So I'll name it main window. There won't be any confusion with the UI main window because that's why we have the UI at the front. So we can see that's generated, and this is the file we actually write code in. So now that we have this, we can start typing in our code. We're going to need a few libraries to begin with. We're going to need the system library, and we're going to need a couple of the Qt libraries as well. We're going to need the Q application library, and we're going to need the Q main window. And the other thing we'll need is our generated code, so our UI main window. So we can say from that file that we can see on the side there, UI main window, we want to import the class that's in that. So now we've got access to all the code we need. We're going to have a class here that we will call main window. So this class will be, when we create an instance of this class, this will be our main window that we run. So we'll define its init function. And inside of this, we're going to hold the user interface and the main window. So I'll create a variable that will hold the main window. And that will be a Qt main window. So we say Q main window. And I'm also going to keep the UI in this variable called self.ui. So the UI will be where I access all the elements. So if I want to access one of the buttons, for instance, it will be self.ui dot and then the name of the button. So I set that up here by creating an instance of the UI main window. So that's the code that we generated. And then we're going to tell that UI to set up inside of that main window that we created at the top. And lastly, I also need to define a function called show, and all that simply does is tell the main window that it's time to show itself on screen. So you build the whole thing, get it all set up off screen, and when you call show, it tells the main window, okay, you can now appear to all the users. Alright, so that's the basic class setup, but we need something that creates an instance of this main window. Okay, so all of this stuff that you're seeing just to get the window open, this is all boilerplate code, so you can just copy and paste all this in, and the real code will start once we start connecting up buttons and other elements. So down the bottom here, we could in a separate file write some Python that would create an instance of this window, but there is a trick in Python that we can simply say if name equals main, and what that means is this the file that was clicked on to run? So if I click on this file, or I type into a command prompt Python and then main window.py, then this is the main file. This is the entry to the program. So I ask the question, was this file used to run the program? If it was, then I'll go ahead and set everything up. So we want an app that's going to be a Q application. And from our system, sometimes when you launch an application, so let's say I'm running this file, and I might give it some additional information called arguments. Well, I'd get that from the system because that's put in through the command line. So I'd say app equals Q application and any extra arguments that it needs. Main win, not to be confused with the one that's up here, that's self main win for the main window. This is just something I'm setting up down the bottom. This will be an instance of that class, that main window class. So I'll say main win equals main window. So this is the code we just created. And then I'll call its show function to tell it to show itself. And lastly, when we click on the X up on the window, we need to tell the system that we've completed and we need to exit. So we'll say system.exit after our app has finished executing. Okay, so as I said a couple of times, this is all boilerplate code. You could quite literally copy and paste this into your application and then start writing your code. It's what we need to get the program up and running to begin with. We'll run this to see that the window is working by right-clicking on main window.py because that's our entry to the program, and we click run main window. And you can see a main window's popped up, so our application is running. We can type into the text area here, maybe Harry inputs, and we can click the button, but at the moment that doesn't actually do anything. These are just elements on a screen that you can interact with. We want to actually code up some actions from when you hit enter. We want to read we want to read what's written in here, and then we want to display it. We'll do that in the next video.